Coming up next, the men's hurdles, Renaldo Nehemiah and Tony Dees, as we continue our coverage from New York. Greg Foster is the world and American record holder. And here we see the Millrose Games earlier this month, right here at Madison Square Garden, where Tony Dees looked very impressive.
Over on the left, Willie Gauld in the all-black towards the middle. Greg Foster, neither of them near to Tony Dees.
And we'll have the race in a moment, but now let's go back to John Doherty.
Thank you, Craig. I'm here with a special guest, double gold medalist, Olympic gold medalist, Roger Kingdom, out with an injury, knee operation 6 months ago. I know you're on the mend. I know you're going to come back, but tonight's race, give us a critique.
Well, tonight's race is going to be a really tough field. I mean, I think that Courtney Hawkins has been showing a lot of progress, and Tony Dees, of course, is going to be the man to beat.
Can you stay with us during the race? We'll get your comments afterwards.
All right, I'll do that.
Terrific, Craig.
Thank you very much. What an athlete. Roger Kingdom was named the High School Athlete of the Year in the state of Georgia over a guy by the name of Herschel Walker.
I think Roger Kingdom thought he should have been the one pushing that bobsled over in Albertville, but that knee injury has had him out of all sports.
Well, Roger says Tony Dees is the one to beat. Tony Dees is in lane 4.
Dees has been looking good all season, and a couple of years ago he not only ran this event, he ran in the 60 meters in this event as well. He doubled in those two. This year he's concentrating just on the hurdles, and he talked to him early, he says he's ready to go. But Courtney Hawkins has looked so good. He won some races over in Europe, beat some of the best European athletes, and I talked to his coach, Tom Tellez. He said that I've learned from the other hurdlers to be patient. And here's a man of great patience, Renaldo Nehemiah, who says, this is bonus time. I never thought I'd be running at this age 32. He says, I'm like a little kid out there. He can always sneak up and steal it if the other guys make a mistake.
He won this event back in 1979 when he was at the University of Maryland. Of course, went on to a great career, went into the NFL, came back. Tony Dees has a chance, or sort of like a tendency, as Jackie Joyner-Kersee, to get out too quickly.
Well, he's so fast. He's the fastest guy among the hurdlers, although when I said that in front of Kingdom, Kingdom says, hey, nobody's ever seen me run a flat 100 meters. Maybe I could beat Tony Dees. But that requires him to make a lot of adjustments. He has to have tremendous reaction time not to get into trouble hitting hurdles. Courtney Hawkins looks so good in his qualifying races that it's hard to see how he's going to not have a good race in this final. All he's got to do, according to his coach Tellez, is look down that line of hurdles, not worry about anybody else, and he will rise to the occasion tonight.
The concentration of Tony Dees in lane 4 in the purple. Just above him, Courtney Hawkins in lane 3. And that was Tony Lee who jumped the gun in lane 5.
Tony Lee from China is the Asian record holder. Both his mother and brother were top sprinters in China. He came to Washington State University as Lee Tong. His coach at Washington said, well, Lee Tong, that won't work so well over here. Why don't we just call you Tony Lee? And out there, everyone just calls him Lee.
Lining up next to the favorite, Tony Dees. I mean, Tony Lee knows he has to get out quickly.
Exactly, and here you look at the fastest people of all time. Greg Foster, slight leg problems. Roger Kingdom coming back from injury. Colin Jackson, Courtney Hawkins beat him in Europe just this past week. And I think it's interesting that Hawkins trains on that Houston track right alongside Carl Lewis, alongside Leroy Burrell. He says that's made a big difference in his confidence factor to see how world-class athletes train. Now he believes he can be world-class also. Tony Dees, his coach Wilbur Ross, is such a master of the hurdles event. Many of the best hurdlers in history have trained under Ross.
That's a good start for Courtney Hawkins in lane 3. Courtney Hawkins, oh, he stumbles, down he goes, and it's going to be Tony Dees.
What an interesting race, as self-control, maintaining control was what that race was all about, because it was Tony Dees that hit the first hurdle, and Courtney Hawkins seemed to take advantage of that, sprinted into the lead, but then he himself had problems.
And you saw Carl Lewis going over to talk to Courtney Hawkins, tell him it's okay.
There you see Hawkins third from the top. As they come to that first hurdle, Dees hit it. Hawkins seemed to take control in the blue. But then he has troubles off of that second hurdle, stumbles, and what an opportunist Tony Dees is. Right away, he takes control. Renaldo Nehemiah alongside of him ran an excellent race, but just was never quite up with the two leaders. Look at Hawkins stumble. He eventually goes all the way down off of that hurdle. Boom, that hurts on the wooden boards. And you can see Dees making slight adjustments as he comes up to the hurdle. So hard to do when you're sprinting all out.
Let's go back to John Dockery. John?
Thank you, Craig. I'm with two pretty good hurdlers. Before I get to you, Tony, I want to ask Roger, what do you think of that race and Tony's race?
Well, I just felt that it was a very aggressive race, but there's one thing that you got to learn in a tough race like this. Courtney had a slight mental lapse, and he lost his concentration. I tell you what, he got the death penalty in this one.
He certainly did. You know, Tony, Craig Masbeck upstairs was talking about you making adjustments at the end of the race. What were they?
Well, actually, at the end of the race, I was going to pitch in and lean harder at the tape because we've been training for that through practices this week and trying to get that conquered. And as far as the first part of my race, I was trying to go the first two quicker. But the last part, I knew I would run fast from third to the finish.
So you're generally satisfied even though it wasn't a perfect race for you?
Yes, I'm happy because I won for the most part.
I know you were talking earlier about really running well and maybe going for a world record. Didn't happen, of course.
Well, I don't know what the time is officially, though.
Okay, congratulations to you. Craig?